Hey guys, Chris from Propel here, and today we're going to be reviewing the Riese Müller Homage GX Rohloff. The Homage is one of Riese Müller's top bikes featuring its control technology, which is a culmination of a variety of things. One of the main things that most people notice is full suspension, so having rear suspension as well as front suspension. But one of the notable things about the frame overall is this low step. Now, Riese Müller has two main bikes that are standard frame, which are known for their control technology. One is the Delight, which has a standard frame, which you'll know that by having this top tube like this. And this is the Homage, and it does not have the top tube. It's a low step, so makes it easier to get on and off the bike. And that's what we find a lot of people really appreciate about this bike in particular. It makes it really easy to step on and off of it. Some other details: overall, it's a relatively upright seating position. You have kind of swept back bars, you have a relatively wide saddle, and with the suspension and the wide tires, it makes for a really comfortable ride. It's made really to ride on-road, off-road, just really go anywhere, do anything sort of bike. And I think that's, in our experience, what we find most people doing with the bike. They want something where they're going to ride around town, but they might go on some dirt roads or maybe something a little bit more technical. I would say you don't want to go on like very serious mountain bike trails like single track, but you can certainly handle some good off-road trails. So it's an aluminum frame, and when you get on the bike, you could tell it just feels really solid. It's really reminiscent of like a heavy Mercedes or something like that. But some of the great things about the frame is the integration of this rear rack. So this is something you generally don't find on a full suspension bike. And this rack offers a lot of utility, but it's also protects your stuff well. I mean, it's a full suspension bike, but oftentimes when you have full suspension, you want to put a rear rack on it. It's going to go over the rear wheel. So that means that rack is going to bounce around, and whatever you got on it is going to bounce around as well. But the rack is suspended just as you are. So if you actually compress the rack a little bit, you can see, the rack is moving just with the bike frame. And this rack has some different attachment points. It's a rack time rack, and that means that it has a clip system that you can use rack time compatible parts that can clip on and off. And that includes different baskets, different bags, and that sort of thing. You also have this little strap here. It's called the bibia strap. And you could throw a jacket on here or maybe a bag, and you could strap it under there. And it also has a mounting point for a lock. So the Homage comes with 27.5 wheels, so 27.5 inches, also called 650B. And the tire size is a 2.35. Now it comes standard with these Rock Razor tires. On some of the other models, they'll come standard with the GT tires. These are the GX. The GT is a Supermoto X, which is a little bit slicker, but both of them have some puncture protection, and this is set up to be tubeless ready. So the rim is tubeless ready, and these tires are tubeless compatible. It does come with a tube, but you can definitely swap it out if you wanted to. Has a through axle on the front hub here, and that's set up with this Suntour Ion fork, which has 100 millimeters of travel. So this Homage is the GX Rohloff, and Rohloff because it has the Rohloff hub. So this hub is 14-speed, internally geared. So inside the hub, there's 14 speeds. Generally, you see the gears on the outside, like normal cassette. This one has all of them inside. The benefit is when the gears are inside, they're all protected. There's less need for maintenance because no dirt gets in there. And it makes it easier because you're able to adjust the gears when you're not pedaling. Some things that are also unique about this is just a really wide gear range. So it's actually 526% gear range, as opposed to somewhere around 350, 400%, which you might normally find on a derailleur or the Enviolo hub. And the benefit to that is you have a really low gear as well as a very high gear. This has a belt on it as opposed to a chain. This is another update for 2019 along with the electronic shifting. And that's just a very low maintenance setup. So the motor on this Homage is the Bosch Performance Line CX. CX is basically a motor that Bosch designed for mountain biking because it has really high torque, 75 Newton meters on this one. It's also available in the Bosch Performance Line Speed, a little bit less torque, but a slightly higher top speed. This one has a 20-mile-an-hour top speed, and the HS version has a 28-mile-an-hour top speed. This motor works based on 3 sensors. Inside the motor, there's a torque sensor, basically sensing how hard you're pedaling. There's a cadence sensor sensing how fast you're pedaling. And then on the rear wheel, there is a speed sensor sensing how fast that wheel is going. Based on all 3 of those sensors, it's taking 1,000 senses per second and delivering power proportionate to your input. Now you can ride it with no power. You always have to pedal, but you can control how much you want to pedal. Some other little details over here, this little pulley arm. This is one of those unique design elements that Riese Müller implemented and allows for a belt drive on a full suspension bike, which is very rare, but that just shows you the power of their engineering. So the rear shock on the Homage is a 100mm travel X-Fusion O2 shock. Pretty simple, but it's specifically designed for Riese Müller. It's tunable to your body weight. You can adjust the rebound. Does not have lockout, but for the most part, in my experience, there's not many needs to actually lock out the suspension. Another unique feature about the Riese Müller bike is the ability to accommodate 2 batteries. So this has 1 integrated battery and it has an optional second battery. At the moment, we just have this little bag on here, which is just kind of a special part, but there's a power tube battery inside here, 500 watt hours. So that's a 36 volt, 13.4 amp hour battery. And that single battery will generally get you somewhere between 20 and 60 miles. With a dual battery, you can easily get 40 miles on the highest level of assist and up to 120 miles with the lower level of assistance. The Homage comes with a standard 4 amp charger, charges a single battery in about 4 hours. For the dual battery, you can charge both of the batteries on the bike through this little charging port here, or you can charge the batteries individually off the bike. Now to turn the bike on, we just push this little power button. This bike has the kiosk display, which is an option. It comes standard with the Intuvia display. So when the bike turns on, you see the time here. You see off, which is the assist level, the lights, which are on by default, the battery percentage. This is for the single battery at the moment, but if it has 2, it's going to be the blended percentage there. Miles per hour, which you can change to kilometers per hour, which gear you're in because it has the electronic shifting, your actual speed, and then you have all these different settings. Now, I'm not going to go into those too much right now because we have another video that we do on the kiosk display, but this is the basics of how the display works. So if you want to change into an assist level, because right now if you ride the bike, it will ride just like a normal bike. If you want to change into an assist level, you press the plus button, and the first mode you get into is Eco mode. Now Eco mode is about a 50% boost. As you go up to Tour mode, it's 100%. This is E-mountain bike mode, which is unique only to the CX motor. It's an option where you can have between Tour mode and the top mode, which is turbo mode, and it's going to be a little bit more dynamic in switching between the amount of assistance that you're getting. And as you might have noticed, as I switch the assist levels, you'll also see the color change. You can cycle through these different displays and it shows you all different details about the bike. And then you can go into the settings. You can change certain things like which gear the bike starts at. Because for example, when you come to a stop, at the moment, the bike is actually automatically going to shift down to gear 5. But those are some of the details. Also, one thing to note is that the lights by default are going to be on all the time. Now that's a safety feature. Technically you can turn that off. This bike does have brake lights, so you might want to consider leaving that on because by turning the lights off, you'll also lose the brake lights. So because this is an internal hub, you can shift the gears when you're not pedaling, like now. Right now we're in gear 5, but if I hit the plus button, shift to 6, 7, and I can actually hold the plus button down and it'll shift 3 gears at a time. So right now I'm in 7, hold it down, and I get up to 11 and then up to 14 really quickly. If I want to go down, I can hold it and go really quickly through the gears. Now keep in mind, as you're shifting the gears when you're pedaling, you do want to let your pressure off the pedals to allow for the gear to engage. And right next to the shifter, you'll see this little light button. Now this is a high beam, so by default the light is going to be on with the low beam, and if I push this button, it's going to go into the high beam mode, which is really powerful. And then we also got a little flip bell, which is nice. And the brakes on the Homage are the Magura MT4 with the electronic cutoff switches. So actually you can pull the lever just a little bit and it'll activate the brake light, but pull it a little bit more and you'll actually activate the brake. So I find that helpful sometimes. I want to let people know, hey, I might slow down a little bit, give people a warning, and then actually activate the brakes. And you might also notice here these grips. This is the Ergon GP1 grips. It's an ergonomic grip, and it has a really nice contact patch for your hand, offers a lot of support. Normally you might find that a grip might cut off the circulation, but you feel quite a bit of support there and works really well. Now coming down to the wheel, we'll see the Magura 180mm rotors with the MT4 calipers. They're dual piston calipers, they're hydraulic brakes, offer a lot of stopping power, and you really don't have to pull that lever too much to get a lot of power out of them. So a powerful bike like this, it's a nice feature to have. Same setup on the rear as well. The Homage comes standard with the Cell Royale look-in saddle. It has this 3D skin gel, and it's a relatively wide saddle, just enough to support you in that moderately upright positioning. The pedals that come on the bike are pretty standard cage pedals, and it's a common upgrade point. If you get this bike, you might want to consider putting more of like a mountain bike platform pedal, or perhaps you're wearing nicer shoes, you might want to consider a pedal with like a little bit of like a grip tape on it or something like that. But overall, works well out of the box, you know, so you don't need to change them, but something you might want to consider. Well, I really appreciate you guys checking out this video today. Stay tuned for more videos like this, and we'll have some other videos about rider stories and different things like that. If you want to see this bike in person, you could visit one of our stores, either in Brooklyn, New York, or Long Beach, California, or just give us a shout, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you have or, you know, help you any way we can.